is Nobletrout / Chuck. He is going to say, I can't LTE even. Please give him a warm ShmooCon welcome.
Well, this is a little terrifying. Hi, everyone. I go by Chuck, but all my emails and handles and everything are Nobletrout, so that's me. Today, I'm going to basically tell you guys how you can be your own amazing service providers out there and build your own LTE and 4G wireless networks and give it to the cable company. So let's start. I was sort of inspired to submit this talk, even though it's not really a how to hack something talk, by something that Bruce Potter said at the first ShmooCon I went to, which was 2017 or something. I'm a latecomer here. But he basically said, I want to have a conference where it wasn't just everyone talking about how I broke into this really neat little monkey puzzle thing and I broke it apart and I got root. He's like, I want to see other stuff and other cool, amazing things out there. So I thought this is probably the most challenging talk I've ever given because it's not about how I broke something, it's how I built something. So I'm basically just going to give you guys a bunch of steps forward of how to build something, and then maybe you can break it because breaking is more fun. Some background information about me. I've talked a lot about LTE, which is also known as 4G these days, and 5G networks. I'm mostly sort of focused on what you'd call the wireline, and we'll talk about that, but it's not like an access point. Your phone doesn't just connect to a cell phone tower and then off to the internet. There's a bunch of other supporting technologies that are out there, and they're all weird and esoteric and Byzantine, and I get really excited about complexity because complexity normally leads to vulnerability. I also submit to talks to overcome my social anxiety of talking in public. I could also just not do it, but it's more fun doing it this way, so feel free to screwball me as much as you want. So I subscribe to the Daily Dave mailing list, which if you're not part of it, it's a very low traffic listserv. You'll probably see about 30 emails a year out of it. It's run by this guy, nice guy here who used to work for the NSA and then made a bunch of cool hacking tools back in back in the olden days. But essentially he put out a note a few years ago from the Hacker Initiative, which was then called the No Starch Press Foundation, basically saying, look, you guys are all turds. None of you are asking for this money that people want to give away to do cool and amazing projects and things. So I was like, well, I've got a crazy idea that I've been sitting in the back burner for a few years in my head. So time machine metaphor. We got to go in the DeLorean, go back a couple more years, and I'll start talking about some context of how I got here. So these networks are not simple. If you watch a talk by me and Chris from DC, I think 24, we talked at the Packet Hacking Village, and all we did was basically provide a decoder ring describing all the elements that are in the packet core, like from cell phone tower to internet, what's in between there. But essentially what you can see here is that there's a bunch of random stuff around there that flies around, and eventually you land on the thing called the PDN, which is also known as the internet. So then, like, I got really familiar with this equipment, and a lot of them talk protocols that Shodan never scans for. They're not even on, like, TCP or UDP transport layers. They're on something called SCTP for a lot of this stuff. So I started port scanning for listening services, essentially that one that you see, hopefully this comes out in the big slides, but it's called MME. That's essentially your AAA radius server for mobile networks, right? It holds your IMSI number that we're all familiar with for registering with a mobile network, right? So I port scanned for it, figuring, well, there should be a couple big giant refrigerator $1 million pieces of equipment left on the internet. There's about 300 service providers. Not all of them are rock stars. And I was right. I did find some of that stuff, and that was kind of cool to poke at and look at. But I hit a lot more of this sort of stuff. And I was like, what WTF is this stuff, right? Most of this equipment is made by Ericsson, Nokia Siemens Networks, Cisco, big pants, big boys. Not some no-name knockoff brand that's running this thing, or not really knockoff. It's a thing, right? And it had a web management port and stuff. So I was sort of like, well, what is this thing? And then I sort of stumbled into this whole other realm of stuff I didn't even know existed, which was called CBRS, Citizens Broadband Radio Service. Hold on a second. Which essentially is a sliced off piece of 3.5 gigahertz spectrum for the rest of us to create our own mobile networks. And Bicell and a couple other manufacturers will sell you equipment that's like $1,000 or less to actually go and build your own private mobile network. If you've ever heard of LoRaWAN, this is sort of a competing sort of technology. This is for the primary market's IoT, but there's nothing that stops your phone from working on this either. It's not well advertised either. Like no one seems to care about it. So, going back to the future, as it were, I submitted my paperwork to the Hacker Initiative, and lo and behold, they called me up, they asked me some questions, and I was like, yes, oh my God. And then they gave me some money so I could actually go and buy this stuff and build my own private LTE network. So here I am to tell you how I did. The desired end state is to remove that complexity and get to a point where I have a phone, I have a tower, and then I'm on the internet. And I just wanted to go through those steps and then logically lay them out so that people who follow behind me don't have to deal with hours and hours and hours of reading stuff and getting lost. So you can just go and make one of these things within a few hours and some money, right? So here's the sort of quick steps of the things that you need to do and who you're talking to for each of these sort of steps. For CBRS, you got to get familiar with the licensing spectrum, what is available for you, and how much you can pay to be even more special. The licensing for that as well, you have to become something called a certified product installer. You then have to buy some gear. You have to buy some subscriptions because it's 2023. Well, it's 2024 now. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some next leveling that you can do if you want to like make it extra hard for yourself. So CBRS is broken into three tiers. The tier 1 is called incumbents. You don't get access to that spectrum. Certain parts of the country, you just have a limited amount of that spectrum available because the DoD has stuff that operates in that frequency, and they say that's for us, not for you. Tier 2 is called a preferred access line. They go up for auction from the feds now and then. I actually watched an auction happen, but I didn't participate, and I sort of was a little frustrated at the end because I was like, man, if I had $5,000, I could own my entire county and have my own slice of spectrum and be like, ha ha, real service provider. And then tier 3 is sort of like opportunistic assignment of spectrum for you, which is sort of where I land, you land, everyone else is going to land in terms of playing around with this stuff. And we'll sort of talk about how you get access to that tier 3 spectrum. CBRS is not the Wild West. You can't just, buy a piece of equipment on a shelf, turn it on, and it's running. You need to become something called a certified product installer, CPI. You have to take a training class, and you get a certificate. But it's not like a nice shiny piece of paper certificate. It's actually a piece of PKI, crypto certificate, which is really kind of cool. And then what you do is you can use that certificate to then stamp the installation that you did with your what's called an eNode B or cell phone tower. You can say it's here, it's pointing that way, it has that amount of declination or azimuth or whatever, this kind of antenna going up here, all that sort of stuff. So how do you get certified? Who are the certifier? Who are the gatekeepers in this space? I think there's a couple more vendors since I made this slide, but essentially there's a couple. You go onto something called WinForum. They'll list them out for you. I went with Google because I didn't want to talk to people, and Google doesn't want me to talk to them either, so it was a mutual relationship of benefit. You take an online course. There's this nice instructor. She talks you through everything. You go backward, forward, and when you feel like you've got all the material down, you then install spyware on your computer and take a Coursera course, and then you wipe your computer again because it was really icky doing that. and you get your certificate for 5 years. After that, there's a renewal fee of about, I don't know, $50, $100 or something, but it's not as bad as that initial upfront cost, right? Then you're going to want to buy yourself some equipment. You're going to need to get yourself an eNode B, otherwise known as a cell phone tower. I got the Nova 430i. I talked to some other guys, random people in Discord that heard I was doing this, through this, and they bought like half the cost of that one version. It starts with the number 2. It worked great for them. You're going to want something called a UE, which is like a fancy term that cell phone companies use to mean cell phone. And then you're going to want some SIM cards that work with the network you're going to subscribe to and use. If you go on Ongo Alliance website, they will have a list of all certified phones that work with band 42, which is this 3.5 gigahertz range. So essentially anything iPhone 11 or bigger or Pixel 4 will work with this stuff. How do you buy this gear? The easiest way is to incorporate yourself so you look like a serious business person, even if you aren't. I got myself a domain name, registered an LLC, and then I talked to some resellers. The one I worked with was Double Radius, but if you poke around these equipment manufacturers' websites, they'll have a list of resellers that are available for you to talk to, depending on where you are in the world. It also really helps when you start working with Google on the spectrum assignment side of things, which I'll get to as well. They, funnily enough, don't like you to use a Gmail address when you want to use their services for this stuff. Oh. So now we need to buy or rent, subscribe to infrastructure. We want to offload the responsibility of all this complex stuff to making it someone else's responsibility. And for that, I used Bicell's software as a service called Cloud Core. They charge me, I think, $1.50 per month per phone, per piece of equipment or something. It's not a lot of money at all. And if you buy the SIM cards from them, you can just register it. You type in the IMSI number, and then you have a phone connected to the thing, and you're good. But then you also need, these are just screenshots of the UI. It's not very exciting stuff, so I don't know why I put them in there. Sorry. But the slides are online, so you can download them later and look at them. Then you also need to use a spectrum assignment service. There's only 3 of those available. The easiest one, again, is Google. This is really neat because you can actually zoom around and see what's available for spectrum to assign to your stuff. In fact, let's see if this loads up. I actually went offline here. Oh, uh-oh. Did I make my computer go bad? Oh, it's gone funny. Okay. So I got to look over here, sorry. But like you can sort of see, this is the DC metro area. We got the cell phone tower hooked up at my friend Phil's place last night. And you can sort of see the amount of spectrum that's available in different areas and zoom in and out. But I'm offline right now, so you can't see it. This square, by the way, on the left out in West Virginia, does anyone know what that represents? Yeah, right? That's where you go if you're allergic to radio waves and things, right? Anyway, I was joking with a friend. That's a good place to be a therapist if you want to make some money. All right, next slide. Rabbit hole DIY stuff. This is sort of where I am right now. There's an open source packet core created, funded sort of by Facebook. But it's an open source project called Magma. It'll allow you to do all of the dirty work of all of that intricacy and complexity. So I sort of want to go in there, reach out, take it out, and sort of see if I can get into some simple steps there of like, if you want to save yourself $1.50 a month, here's how you got to set up Magma, but be aware you're going to have to run your own infrastructure then. So then you're sort of adding extra complexity. But at that point, you're sort of now into the like, I'm in my lab building phase, right? Like, I can start peeling back layers of that onion and understand more of what's going on here. The next bit is you can also now have a really cool research lab. Grab yourself a Blade RF, or if you're rich, the US Robotics software-defined radio. If you want to know more about doing this sort of stuff, you can grab some beers for me for free, and I might talk. Don't transmit, just receive. Your CPI license doesn't give you carte blanche to just transmit this network. It just gives you the ability to install the equipment, right? But I'm also not the police, so if you decide to do that, that's on you. Also, this is a data-only network, so I actually set up with something called VoIP.ms, which is a SIP dialing service. It's really cheap, it's awesome. And you can do texting and phone calls with it. And then you just put a SIP phone as your default dialer on your Android phone, and now you have a real fucking phone, which is really cool. And then this is like really why I got into this. I wanted to get into like community wireless. I'm struggling to find people who want to do this with me, but essentially if one of these cell phone towers can support up to 256 clients, and not everyone needs to have gigabit internet. One person could buy gigabit internet and then share it with their friends at 50 megabits each across a nice urban dense environment and charge them $5 to keep it running. Does that violate your terms and conditions with Comcast? I don't know. Again, I'm not the police. TLDR version is get the certificate, buy gear from somewhere like Bicel or other ones. I've listed them on my GitHub page. Register your devices with an SAS provider. Register with the mobile packet core, activate your SIM, and have an LTE network. And then if you whack the QR code, it'll take you to my stuff. But there you go, that's it. If you got questions, I got 6 more minutes before the next presentation, which is sort of where they wanted me to land anyway, so. All right, cool. Oh, yeah? Oh, sure. All right, thank you, guys. Oh, there's a question. Yes. Open 5GS. I don't know what Open 5GS is. Repeat the question. Oh, there's Open 5GS, which is an open source 5G packet core. That's really cool. I don't know about it. Email me about it. It's really cool. He was just asking about something called Open 5GS, which is an open source packet core that I hadn't heard about. Open 5GS, it's an open source packet core that I haven't heard about. Oh, there's another hand. What kind of antenna setup does this need? Oh, good question. I have the one with an I, a lowercase I on it, the model number, which means internal antenna. And I stuck it on the top of my house in my attic, and I pointed it out towards the beaver dam, which is farther away than you'd imagine, and the phone made it all the way to the beaver dam. So it's about 800 feet without trying. Maybe 1,000 feet, something like that. I think you can make it like half a mile, 2 miles if you give it a proper antenna and proper placement, though. Actually, no, it's got to be way more than 1,000 feet. The beaver dam is probably more like half a mile away. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.